Hello friends. In previous lesson we learned how we will prepare our domain controller and how we will prepare additional domain controller in our environment. Now we are going to prepare read-only domain controller in our environment. So before preparing this, I am providing you a little bit overview about read-only domain controller. So see here. I have two sites. Here it's a site 1 and here is site 2. And this is our site 1. Site 1 is a remote location and there is very slow WAN connectivity link between our corporate office to a remote location. And also there is some limited user. So we are going to prepare a read-only domain controller for remote uh, location. So let's start. And before installing read-only domain controller, I'll pre-stage read-only domain controller in our corporate office domain controller. So let's. And this is our read-only domain controller. Here you can see it's in work group. Now we will go on our domain controller DC01 and we will open Active Directory users and computer. We will click on domain controller. Here you can see pre-create read-only domain controller account. So before creating a domain controller account, I'll create one test user. Now I have created a user one and now we will click on domain controller OU and select pre-staging. Now we will select use advanced mode installation, create next. Here for installing a read-only domain controller I'll use my default administrator credential. Click next. Now it's asking for a computer name. So I'll give computer name ROTC01. Okay, click next. Here it's asking for sites and service details. So currently we have only one site, and in upcoming lessons I'll also provide you a little brief overview about sites and services and how we can create a multiple sites. Now it's examining our DNS configuration. Now see our DNS check completed. Now it's here you can see it's showing DNS server check, global catalog check, and here you can see read only domain controller RODC. It's a grayed out and we cannot change it because our main motive is we are going to deploy a read only domain controller. So click on next. Here you can see it's a option like see here you can see it's related to password caching. So on read only domain controller, our administrator, server accounts, backup operators group, uh, uh, these type of groups and administrator ID password going not to cache on a read only domain controller. and here you can see read only password replication group. Means if we will add any members in this group, then those users password can be cached on read only domain controller. Except this group, you can see here everything is showing denied, but we can here uh, alter this deny option. Like here you can see, suppose that if you want to allow administrator account password for caching, then you can define allow password to account replicate with this RODC. So we will click on next. It's asking for on which ID you are going to delegate control for installing a read-only domain controller on your remote site. So I'll try to search our user one account. User one. Here I have created this ID for means I am delegating control on user one ID for performing a domain service installation on our branch office domain controller. So we will click on next. Here you can also export this settings configuration setting. Click next. Finish. Now here you can see our pre-staging has been done, and here you can see on a user one ID I haven't delegated any domain admin or special privilege. User one is only simple account, and I have authorized him to install a RODC on remote office. So we will go on RODC. This is our read-only domain controller, and you can see it's a part of our group. We haven't installed any domain services on this server. So we will click on server manager. Here we will click add roles and features. It's refreshing. Yeah, now refresh done. We will click on add roles, and here role based feature installation RODC1. This is a server host name, branch of a server host name. Click next. We will select Active Directory domain services. Click add. Now we will click next, 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 install. Now our Active Directory services is installation going on. Now our role installation done. We will click on promote this server to a domain controller. We will click here. Now here add a domain controller to an existing domain. Okay friends, now we are providing our domain details on read only domain controller. Now we have submitted username password, and it's asking for a directory service restore mode, and you can see we haven't delegated any permission on user one. So here we will define a restoration mode password. Here replicate from any domain controller. In our environment, we have one PDC and two ADC domain controller, and this server is going to a part of read-only domain controller. Click next. It's a database log file and sysful folder path. Click next. Install. Now prerequisites done, and we will click on install button, and let's wait for a few minutes because it will take time. So for time being, I am pausing this video. Friend, now you can see our read-only domain service installation done. We will click close, and now it's going to reboot. Yeah, reboot. Now our reboot done, and we will try to log on with user 1 ID. Now we have successfully logged in with user 1 ID, and here you can see we haven't defined any special privilege on this ID. Now go to RODC, and user 1 is trying to access Active Directory users and computers. See what kind of rights user 1 have after installing read-only domain controller. Oh, he is not getting a new ID creation request any. He has only view. Here you can see you don't have permission to write security information for this object. So basically he is only to able to view all the objects and able to log in on our domain controller. So in this lesson we learned how we will deploy a read-only domain controller in our environment, and before performing a read-only domain controller, how we will pre-stage read-only domain controller. So thanks for watching, and in next video we will learn how we can demote any domain controller